What's going on, everyone? My name is Spada, and welcome back to the Lost Engine Outpost. Today we're gonna do something different. Today I want to do a kind of review. I say it that way because I don't really have any long-term plans of doing game reviews overall. I just played and beat a game that I absolutely loved, and I wanted to share my opinions on it. If this turns out to be something that you guys do enjoy, though, I'll happily do more when I can. On that note, make sure to drop a like if you do end up enjoying it. There's quite simply no better way to tell me that you're enjoying this kind of content, and it really helps get this video out to more people. I remember when this game was announced that it immediately stood out to me as something that was totally different. It looked like a kung fu movie that had been made into a video game. It even reminded me of this old PlayStation 2 Jet Li game called Rise of Honor, just simply based on what I was seeing from the combat. I knew that this game was something I was destined to buy. I was certain it would be enjoyable, but I didn't have any clue that I was going to enjoy it like I have. As a fighting game fan, there aren't that many single-player games that hit that same feeling for me. The feeling of satisfaction I get when I've bested my opponent through good reads and smart blocks, solid spacing, and rewarding combos. But I can safely say that Sifu is one of those games for me. Let's try to do this the right way and give attention to each feature of the game that I think really brings this experience to life. And I'll try to stay as spoiler-free as I can. Let's start with presentation. And by this I mean everything from how it looks to how it sounds and plays. First, I love the graphics of this game. The painterly style just works for me on a fundamental level. I like the way the game plays with the art style too. After the first stage, things start to get a lot more surrealistic, from a boss that lights the entire arena on fire using a cigarette, to another stage where you walk on an invisible platform and into the silhouette of another boss. These aspects benefit greatly from the art style that they chose for this game. Each stage even has its own look and style that flows throughout. The first stage is just this grimy city surrounded by muck, flooded with drug-addicted denizens, and even drug manufacturing facilities. But then the third stage is this clean, monochromatic theme that befits the museum setting. And the enemies all look like well-paid security staff. The sound on this game is also fantastic. Each punch, kick, baseball bat smack, they all have this perfect crunchiness. Everything feels visceral, and this is aided by some really cinematic finishers that vary dramatically depending on whether the opponent is standing, prone, on stairs, next to a wall, or even based on the weapon that you're wielding. The sound effects played during these takedowns also add to that visceral feel of the game. The music also works perfectly for each setting, really setting the tone for each encounter. From the club fight with techno music playing in the background to an iconic hallway fight scene with this awesome, subtle percussion amplifying each moment of battle. Everything works together to bring this phenomenal combat experience. And then there's the story. This is probably what people consider to be the weakest portion of the game, and I mean, I get it. But I also think this game's story is exactly what it needed to be. You start out playing as the main antagonist of the game, Yang. As Yang, you'll infiltrate a large compound and fight your way through a fairly large number of underprepared combatants. This part of the game serves as a tutorial, walking you through the most important mechanics, things you'll need to know to be successful at Sifu. From there, you'll transition into the character you'll be piloting the rest of the game. At this point, you'll decide whether you want to play as a boy or girl, and then be treated to one of the best opening sequences in recent memory. It looks like a James Bond or Kill Bill opening sequence, but it sprinkles in the addition of these tutorials as it effectively demonstrates the main characters growing up and training, all in the search of vengeance. Then you're thrown into the game with a very thin plot of, I must avenge my father. That serves exactly the purpose it needs to keep you connected to the main character's drive throughout the game. And each piece of evidence that you collect throughout the game provides further insight into your connection with all the bosses. As well, you're treated to these really interesting monologues from the bosses that help cement the personas that you're going up against. So yes, the story mode isn't something groundbreaking, it's very simple and very straightforward, but that's all you need from Sifu. You just need this reason to keep moving forward, and when the story isn't enough, the next topic is all you need to keep pushing on. This leads me to the gameplay, the most fundamental part of the game. To explain how this game works and where a lot of the challenge comes from, let me explain some really basic fundamentals. Your character has a charm that contains amulets that give you the power to come back to life if you're killed in battle. However, each time you die, you accumulate a death counter. Whatever number the death counter is at is how much you will age when you come back. You start at age 20, and every 10 years you age, an amulet breaks. When you reach age 70 or greater, the final amulet breaks and you have no more lives. This is it. If you die here, it's game over. So the difficulty this game presents is pretty obvious, right? Every time you die, your death counter goes up, making each death worth exponentially more years of your life. And the game does offer a solution in these powered up characters. Every once in a while, you'll see these characters that have this aura around them. It's almost like they're Super Saiyan, for a lack of a better word. And if that's not obvious enough, there's an indication on their life bar, which in the case of these characters, has this glow that makes them appear different from other health bars in the game. These characters, if knocked out or killed, will lessen your death counter score by 1. This means that even if you die often, if you can stay alive between deaths long enough to get to and beat one of these enemies, you'll manage your aging much better, allowing you to age at much smaller amounts per each death. There's one more caveat, and that's that whatever age you finish the stage at, you will go into the next stage at that age every time unless you go back to the previous stage and complete it with a better resulting age. This means that if you finish stage 1 at age 40, you'll start age 2 at age 40 with the exact same death counter score. And if you fail at stage 2, you'll have to restart stage 2 in the same situation. This naturally provides incentive to rerun stages in an attempt to improve your outcome. There's also incentive in the point and XP generation system. The better you do, the less you get hit, the more your multiplier goes up to 5 times. The higher your multiplier, the more points and experience you get per knockout or kill. With 3 shrines sprinkled throughout each level, the better you do, the more options you get at each shrine to improve your abilities and stats. It's because of this that you will likely replay every level at least once, but in my case I did it several times to test out different builds for my character. To this end, it's great that stages are not particularly long, meaning that they're all super fun with some depth to explore, but none so much that it feels too daunting to start over and try again. This game invites mastery, and that might be one of the things I like most about it. As someone who played Final Fight over and over just to try and see how far I could get without losing a single life, games that incentivize this process to such a degree make for incredibly fulfilling experiences for me. But then, what about how it feels to play? Well, just fucking amazing, frankly. There are 2 attack buttons, light and heavy, and learning which to use in response to different circumstances is integral to figuring out each combat situation. Sometimes you'll want to use a light attack to keep them close and be able to get access to your takedown without killing them too early, since takedowns do heal you a portion of your health. Other times you'll want to use a heavy immediately following a parry for the best damage possible. Some opponents are even handled better with some combos than others, and this invites experimentation that makes the combat mechanics so much fun. There are even special move inputs that enable you to crotch punch someone to achieve a stun or leg sweep them to force them to the floor. R1 lets you throw whatever weapon you're holding, tapping R2 gives you access to a backdash or side dash depending on the direction you're holding, which you'll use frequently, and then there's even a little bit of nuance on top of this, like holding circle on a grounded opponent to hit them a couple of times and bring them back to their feet. The word I keep coming back to is that the combat feels crunchy. Every hit feels impactful. Every KO feels satisfying. Every boss defeated feels like an accomplishment. The game's parry system is also pretty generous, allowing you to parry almost any attack at almost any time to some fun and satisfying counter hits. There's also a dodge mechanic that allows you to stay close to your enemy while moving away from a hit, and if timed right, you'll get a daze on your opponent that allows for even longer combos. This is a particularly effective technique against bosses who sometimes cannot be parried. So with all of that said, how good do I think Sifu is? I think Sifu is the perfect brawler. It sets out with a specific aim and it hits that target with a conclusive bullseye. It's got some flaws in some elements, like the UI for a takedown not popping up or some weird physics that happen spontaneously, but these flaws do absolutely nothing to take away from the experience that Sifu sets itself out to provide. As a result, to me, this game gets a 10 out of 10. It is easily my favorite game to come out in years and absolutely makes it into my top 10 favorite games of all time. I love this game and I think you would too. All right guys, that's it. That's my review, I guess we'll call it. If you enjoyed this, please let me know by liking the video and subscribing to the channel to see the other content I put out. Did you play Sifu? What are your thoughts? What age did you beat the game at? For me, the first time I beat it at age 63, but most of that was during the last boss fight. Let me know down in the comments how you did. Thank you everyone for coming and hanging out with me today. Until next time, later.